A medical student is 3 years into a program that will take 11, staring at a mountain of debt, a stack of textbooks taller than her toddler, and a growing, quiet suspicion that she picked the wrong life. Everyone around her says the same thing. Don't quit. Winners never quit. Push through. She pushes through. 7 years later, she's a respected surgeon, and she'll tell you without hesitation that pushing through was exactly the right call. Now picture a different person, 3 years into a different long, hard slog, a startup that's bleeding money, a market that clearly isn't there, a product nobody actually wants. Everyone around him says the exact same thing. Don't quit. Winners never quit. Push through. He pushes through. For more years in his life savings later, the company still fails, exactly the way it was always going to. Same advice, opposite outcomes. So which is it? Does grit win, or does it just delay the inevitable? That's the exact question Seth Godin answers in The Dip. And his answer will change how you decide what to keep doing and what to walk away from for the rest of your life. Stay with me. This one saves people years. A simple truth to start. Here's the plain truth Godin opens with, and it directly attacks one of the most repeated pieces of motivational advice in existence. Winners never quit, and quitters never win. Godin says that's not just an oversimplification. It's backwards. Winners quit constantly. They just quit the right things at the right time and stick relentlessly with the one thing worth the fight. The entire book rests on a single, deceptively simple diagram. Almost everything worth doing follows the same shape. An initial rush of excitement, followed by a long, difficult slog where progress slows and the work gets genuinely hard, followed, for the people who make it through, by a payoff on the other side that the early quitters never get to see. Godin calls that long, hard middle section the dip, and his core argument is that the dip isn't a sign you're on the wrong path. It's the actual mechanism that makes the reward on the other side valuable in the first place. Why the dip is a feature, not a bug asterisk. Here's the part most people get wrong, and Godin is precise about correcting it. The dip isn't an obstacle standing between you and success despite the system. It's the entire reason success is scarce and valuable at all. If the road to becoming a great surgeon, a great violinist, a market-leading company, were easy the whole way through, everyone would do it, and being a surgeon or a violinist or a market leader would be worth nothing, because scarcity is what creates value in the first place. The management thinker Peter Drucker observed that there is nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. Godin's argument sharpens that idea considerably. The dip is precisely the mechanism that filters out everyone unwilling to keep doing the difficult thing, which is exactly what makes the people who make it through genuinely rare and genuinely valuable. Skip the dip somehow, and you skip the very thing that made the destination worth reaching. The cul-de-sac, the trap that looks like a dip but is an asterisk. Godin's most important warning is that not every hard slog is actually a dip. Some are what he calls a cul-de-sac, a dead end that looks and feels exactly like the dip while you're inside it, effort, difficulty, slow progress, but that never actually leads anywhere better on the other side, no matter how long you push. The failed startup founder from our opening wasn't stuck in a dip. He was stuck in a cul-de-sac, a market that was never going to materialize, dressed up in all the same emotional texture as a genuine, worthwhile struggle. And this is exactly where Godin says the popular advice, never give up, does the most damage. It can't tell the difference between a dip worth pushing through and a cul-de-sac worth abandoning immediately, and treats both identically, with the same relentless, undifferentiated persistence. The distinguishing question, Godin argues, is simple to ask and hard to answer honestly. If I push through this hard part, does the situation on the other side actually get meaningfully better? In a genuine dip, yes, unambiguously. In a cul-de-sac, the honest answer is usually no. It just continues, flat and unrewarding indefinitely, no matter how much more effort gets poured in. Quitting strategically, the skill nobody teaches asterisk. Godin's central practical argument is that strategic quitting, quitting the cul-de-sac fast, quitting the wrong dip before it drains years of your life, is one of the most valuable and least taught skills that exists. Most people are never taught how to quit well. They're only ever taught, uniformly, not to. The cost of this gap is enormous, because time and resources poured into a cul-de-sac are gone permanently, and every year spent there is a year not spent finding, or sticking with, an actual dip worth pushing through to the other side. Godin's advice is almost the opposite of never give up. Decide in advance, before you're emotionally invested and exhausted, exactly what would mean this is a cul-de-sac rather than a dip. And when you hit that signal, quit immediately, without the sunk cost guilt that usually keeps people stuck for years past the point where quitting would have been the smarter move. Be the best in the world, at something small enough to matter. Godin's other major argument concerns exactly what's worth pushing through a genuine dip for in the first place. His answer is deliberately narrow. Be the best in the world at something, but the world, he's careful to clarify, doesn't have to mean the entire planet. It means whatever specific, definable market actually encounters your work. The best pediatric cardiologist in your city, the best vintage guitar repair shop within driving distance, the best regional supplier of a specific component to a specific industry. This matters because being remarkable at something narrow enough to actually dominate is achievable in a way that being vaguely good at something broad and undifferentiated never is. Godin's argument is that mediocre, undifferentiated effort spread across a wide, uncontested for space produces almost nothing, while genuinely exceptional effort concentrated on a small, well-chosen niche produces outsized results, precisely because the dip filters out everyone unwilling to become truly excellent at that specific, narrow thing. A full example: two founders, one signal. Let's return to the failed startup founder and ask what Godin's framework would have told him before 4 more years and his savings disappeared into a cul-de-sac. The honest question, asked early: is there a real, identifiable market that currently doesn't have this product? Or is the absence of competitors actually a signal that the market itself doesn't exist? If the honest answer, examined without the emotional investment of having already built something, is that the market simply isn't there, that's not a dip to push through. It's a cul-de-sac, and the strategic move is quitting immediately, redirecting that same effort and capital toward a genuine dip elsewhere, one with an actual reward waiting on the other side. The surgeon asked the same honest question 3 years into her own long slog. Does finishing residency actually lead somewhere meaningfully better, more autonomy, deeper skill, real impact? The answer for her was unambiguously yes. Same difficulty, same exhaustion, same voice whispering to quit. Entirely different underlying shape. The 3-question test. Godin offers a more concrete version of the honest diagnostic question, broken into 3 parts, precisely because a single question is too easy to answer dishonestly under pressure. First, am I panicking? A decision to quit made in a moment of acute stress, a bad week, a single harsh piece of feedback is unreliable by definition, because panic and genuine strategic assessment produce very different answers to the same question. Second, who am I trying to influence or become the best for, and is that market actually real and reachable? Third, and this is the one Godin considers most diagnostic: if I quit today, will I be quitting because the type of pain has changed, meaning I've hit an actual dead end, or merely because the amount of pain has increased, meaning I'm simply deeper in a genuine, worthwhile dip than I've ever been before? Increased pain of the same kind you signed up for is often exactly what the middle of a real dip feels like. A change in the fundamental kind of pain, boredom replacing challenge, indifference replacing difficulty, is a much stronger signal of an actual cul-de-sac. Every book like this deserves an honest accounting, and here it is. Godin's central diagnostic question: Does this get meaningfully better on the other side? Is genuinely useful, but honestly answering it while you're exhausted and emotionally invested is far harder than the book's confident, punchy style suggests. Sunk cost bias doesn't announce itself. It quietly convinces people mid-cul-de-sac that they're actually still in a legitimate dip, and the book offers relatively little practical guidance for reliably telling the two apart from inside the situation, rather than in comfortable hindsight. There's a second limitation worth nomming. The book's framework assumes a meaningful degree of choice about which battles to fight and which to abandon, a choice not everyone has equal access to. Someone with real financial security can strategically abandon a cul-de-sac far more easily than someone whose only viable path forward is the one they're already on, regardless of which category it actually falls into. Godin's advice is sound as far as it goes, but it's most cleanly applicable to people with some genuine cushion to fall back on. Even with those caveats, the book's core reframe holds up well. Persistence isn't inherently virtuous, and quitting isn't inherently a failure. What actually matters is correctly identifying which one you're facing, and having the discipline to act accordingly, rather than applying the same blanket advice to every hard situation regardless of its actual shape. The takeaway: not every hard thing is worth finishing, and not every easy exit is a failure of character. Before pushing through something difficult, ask honestly whether the other side is actually meaningfully better, or whether the difficulty is simply continuing indefinitely with nothing waiting on the other end. Decide your quitting signal in advance, before exhaustion and sunk cost make that judgment considerably harder to trust. And when you do find a genuine dip worth the fight, push all the way through it, because the difficulty itself is exactly what makes what's waiting on the other side worth having. The surgeon and the failed founder faced the identical wall. One pushed through a dip, one pushed through a cul-de-sac. The wall looked the same from the inside, for both of them the entire way. The only real difference was what was actually waiting on the other side, and knowing that difference, Godin's whole book argues, is worth more than grit alone ever will be.